Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Using Your Brain for Success, the show that's all about helping you build a better life by using your brain the right way. I'm Liam Naden and I'm glad you're here. In this episode, we're going to discuss how to unlock the problem-solving power of your brain. As you'll know if you've listened to previous episodes of this show, the purpose of your brain, which is of course the most powerful computer on the planet, its purpose is to ensure that you live your life's purpose, which is to survive and thrive. And your best chance for doing that is by being the best you can be, your strongest, healthiest, happiest and most resourceful. You'll also remember from the last episode that there are 4 parts to your brain. You have the rational brain for thinking, communication and gathering and storing information. You have your emotional brain for your feelings. There's your mechanical brain, which directs all of your automatic survival functions and also your fight or flight instincts. And then you have your creative brain, and this is the part that is really in charge of the other 3 parts. And it has the most important role to play in ensuring that you are the best you can be, because it's your creative brain that's the source of everything you need to live your life purpose. The ideas, insights, people, circumstances, abilities, inspiration, imagination, creativity and awareness, all of the things that really make your life great. So in this episode we're going to answer the question, how do you use your brain in such a way that it does its job and it makes you the best you can be? And how do you use your brain in the most effective way to solve any problem that you're facing in your life? Remember, your brain, despite its almost limitless power, it is, at the end of the day, still just a machine. And you can use it, like any machine, to get any result you want. But if you use it the wrong way, then you're going to get results that you don't want. Okay, so let's begin by understanding that the brain does its job to keep you at your best by keeping your body and mind, your whole organism if you like, it keeps it in one of 2 biological states or conditions. So the first state is when you're actually living your purpose. This is your natural state. It's the way you're designed to live. And I call it your natural creative state, but it's been given other names. Biologically, this state is called homeostasis. And homeostasis is defined by Wikipedia as the dynamic state of equilibrium that is the condition of optimal functioning for the organism. And this is the natural state not just for humans, but for every living species on the planet. Now this state has also been called being in the flow, or in the zone, or even enlightenment. And I'm sure you've probably experienced this feeling at some time in your life, this feeling where you felt great, where things just seemed to happen almost effortlessly, where you lost your sense of time and you just became caught up in what you were doing. And when you were truly living in the moment. Now many athletes and artists have described this state. And it's where you find yourself performing in a way that seems to tap into a greater strength or power. Now, although you've experienced it probably in your life, wouldn't it be great to live like this all of the time? Well, actually, not only can you, but you're designed to. So if that's your natural state, is there ever a situation where you wouldn't or shouldn't live in this state? Well, actually, there is one, and only one. And that's when something comes along in your environment and presents itself as an immediate danger or a threat to your survival. So if you like, it's when the lion jumps out at you from behind the rock and wants to eat you. Now in such a situation, your brain puts you into a different state, one which is best able to fight off or protect you from that immediate danger. And that is called your survival state. Now I call it your reactive survival state, and I'll explain why a little bit later. But you'll know of this state by its other names, and its most common one is fight, flight or freeze, or even survival mode. Now in this state, this is when your brain uses a different set of resources to deal specifically with an emergency, something that needs to be eliminated right now or you will be harmed or even killed. So the question becomes, How does your brain do this? I mean, how does it know which state that you should be in? How does it put you in each of those states? How does your brain recognize that there's a danger to your survival? And how does it deal with the situation in the best way, the most effective way? And most importantly, what does any of this have to do with solving problems in your life? Well, just follow me along here and you'll discover that how your brain operates these two states is the key to understanding how to solve any problem in your life quickly and effectively, and to discovering your true life purpose and how to live with you in control rather than you feeling at the mercy of circumstances or events outside of you. It really is that powerful. So anyway, the way your brain decides which state is appropriate for every situation and every moment is through your emotional brain. Now, in fact, the sole purpose of your emotional brain is literally to be the gatekeeper. It's the watchman that's on the constant lookout for any danger. And its sole job is to tell the rest of your brain, in every single moment of your life, whether things are safe, in which case you can just stay in your natural creative state, living your purpose and being your best, or whether something is a threat, and you need to jump into reactive survival state to eliminate it. And the way your emotional brain does this is that it uses a signal to tell the rest of your brain which state to be in, and that signal is your feelings. So quite simply, feeling good is just a signal from your emotional brain that everything in your environment is safe. And feeling bad, such as feeling afraid, worried, or stressed, that's just a sign from your emotional brain that you are facing an immediate threat that needs to be dealt with. Okay, now at this point you might be thinking, okay, but what about problems in my life? I mean, problems aren't usually an immediate threat to my survival, but they still make me feel bad. So, for instance, if you've got financial problems or relationship problems, it doesn't mean that something is or someone is standing in front of you right now ready to kill you. Well, not usually anyway. So how can it be that you feel bad about something that isn't an immediate danger, if that's not what your brain's designed to do? Well, what is actually happening is that when you feel bad about a problem, your emotional brain is actually seeing that that problem is an immediate threat to your survival. Now, you know that it isn't, of course, but that's not what your emotional brain is seeing. Your emotional brain is literally interpreting a problem that you have as being a threat to your immediate survival. And it does that not because it's designed to, but because of how you're using your brain. And we're going to look at this in a lot more detail, and you'll understand why. And here's something that's even worse. Because your emotional brain sees that a problem that you're having is actually a threat to your survival, even when it isn't, and because it therefore makes you feel bad, when you feel bad about a problem, you actually block your brain's ability to solve that problem. I'll just say that again. When you feel bad about a problem, you actually block your brain's ability to solve it. And that's the real reason why we all struggle with problems. By feeling bad about it, you cut off the resources your brain needs to solve it. But I'd be willing to bet that there are very few problems in your life that you've ever been able to solve quickly and easily. Unfortunately, most people struggle with the same problems for a long time. I've known couples with marriage problems who've spent months and sometimes even years in counselling. And people often have financial problems that they struggle with for their whole lives. And all of this is because when you're stressed, worried or afraid about something, your brain can't help you find the best solution. Now you might be wondering if there really is a solution to all of this. After all, you might be saying, even if I accept this to be true, how can you possibly expect me not to feel stressed and worried about my problems? It's all very well for you, Liam. You don't have to deal with what I have to deal with. Well, the truth is, there is a way to not let stress and fear block you from accessing the full resources of your brain. There is a way to not feel stressed about your problems, and it doesn't involve smoking anything. And as you'll remember from episode 3, where I shared some of my story with you, You'll remember that I have had major problems in my life, and it was only when I realised that I had to use my brain a different way that I was able to really solve them. But for the moment, let's just look at what happens next. What happens in your brain and therefore in your body when you feel good, when you're in your natural creative state, and what happens when you feel bad, when you're in your reactive survival state, which you're there to fight off an immediate threat. Well, when you're feeling good, those feelings activate something called your parasympathetic nervous system. Now that's when you're in what we called earlier homeostasis, when you're in perfect equilibrium. You're in your natural creative state. You're in the flow and everything is working perfectly. But when you feel bad, when you feel negative emotion, when your emotional brain is signaling that there's an immediate threat to your survival, that activates something called your sympathetic nervous system. And when that happens, every activity and function in your body is redirected away from being in equilibrium towards dealing with the danger. All of your energy, your resources, your focus goes towards that. So physically, your heart starts to beat harder and faster. Your breath becomes faster and shallower so that you're delivering more oxygen and energy to your muscles, so that you're going to be able to fight or run. And anything that might be using unnecessary energy, that also gets shut down. And this includes functions such as your digestion. And this is why people often lose their appetite when they're feeling anxious or afraid. Because your digestion uses a lot of energy, and energy that could be better used to fight a threat. So that's what happens. And what's another part of your body that uses a lot of energy? In fact, which part of your body uses more than 20% of all of your energy, even though it only accounts for 2% of your total weight? Well, that's actually your brain. And a lot of your brain's energy is not only unnecessary when you're needing to fight off an attacker, but it could even be harmful if you were to use it. To understand this, imagine a situation where you're a primitive hunter and you're out hunting in the wilderness, and then a lion leaps out from behind a rock, roaring and baring its teeth. Remember, we talked about the lion earlier. But in this situation, you're going to act or react by instinct. You're going to run or you're going to fight. You might cry out for help, which is another instinctive action. But all of these are instinctive responses which are going to give you your best chance of survival. But what do you need from your thinking brain in this situation? Is your thinking brain going to be helpful? No. In fact, if you were to use your thinking or creative brain resources, that could prove fatal for you in this situation. Because imagine instead of reacting, that your brain decided that it needed to think about this dangerous situation with the lion. It really needed to decide if it was dangerous, and then it needed to plan a strategy after it had evaluated all the facts and gathered together all the information in order to make the right decision on what to do. Now, of course, all of that's going to take far more time than just an instinctive reaction, and you're going to come to a rather unpleasant end, wouldn't you think? So this survival mechanism, where your emotional brain is on the lookout for immediate danger, it's perfect for what it's designed to do. It's perfect in getting your brain to react immediately by instinct and without thinking, so that you take all of the steps necessary to remove the danger as quickly and effectively as possible. But here's the problem, if you want to call it that, about how your brain operates to keep you in your natural creative state and to eliminate dangers when they arise. And that is, the mechanism of your brain is not designed to handle things you call your problems. So anything that makes you feel bad, which is unhappy, afraid, stressed, or worried, but which isn't a threat to your immediate survival, your brain is not designed to handle that. So if you don't have enough money to enable you to have all the things you want, or when your relationship is unhappy and filled with conflict, these things aren't immediate threats to your survival, but they put your brain in survival state. Now, of course, these things, or any problems you have, they need the higher resources of your creative brain to be able to solve. Really, to effectively solve a problem, any problem that isn't in immediate danger, you need to be able to think. And you need to be able to see the big picture. You need to be able to see all of the facts of the situation so that you can make a proper evaluation. And you need to find creative solutions, new ideas, new approaches. You need to consider all of these things so that you can take the most effective actions, the ones that are going to give you the right results. But you can't do any of these things when you're feeling stressed, worried, or afraid, because your brain is telling you that there's an immediate threat to your survival, and so it shuts down the thinking parts of your brain. You simply don't have access to these resources, and the very things you need to solve a problem are not available to you. I mean, consider this. Have you ever been in a situation where a friend has had a problem and you've been able to see very clearly what they should do, but they haven't been able to see it? Perhaps someone you know was in a bad relationship and you could see that the right thing for them to do was to end it, but they couldn't see that. And even though the relationship was harmful to them, might have even been abusive, they stayed and they tried to fix it when really it was beyond fixing. Now you could see the solution because your brain wasn't making you feel afraid. But for them, their fear and anxiety meant that their brain couldn't help them to see the right solution. Isn't this really ironic that the parts of your brain that you need to be able to solve your problems, they're not available to you when you do have a problem? Now, does this mean that your brain can't be used to solve problems? Well, the truth is yes and no. And the real answer, and I know this might sound controversial, is that when you use your brain the right way, you don't actually have problems. The only way you have problems is when you're using your brain the wrong way. And when you start using your brain the right way, it will clean up any problems you do have and get you back on track and living your biological purpose. And your biological purpose doesn't have room for problems. Now, I know all this might sound difficult to accept, but the further we go along, you're going to realize, like I did when I studied this is the inevitable conclusion, that we're not designed to have problems. And that your natural state, along with every other biological species on this planet, is to live in the flow of life. It's to live in the zone, which is being the strongest, healthiest, and happiest you can be. And dealing with any immediate threats to your survival only if and when they present themselves, and doing it quickly, easily, and effectively. There's no place in the natural world or your natural life for problems. Now, I know this is difficult to believe, and I can hear you saying, a life without problems? Liam, who are you kidding? Well, I'm not kidding. And the more I share with you in the show about your brain, how it works, what it is, and who and what you really are, the more you're going to realize this is true. And remember, just because everyone you know has problems doesn't mean that it's natural. Many people would say that the world today is filled with dysfunction and problems. But what's really dysfunctional is how people are using their brains. If they learned how to use their brain the right way, their problems would disappear. Anyway, the thing I want you most to realize and take away from this episode is that you can never solve any problems you have when you're feeling stressed, worried, afraid, or any other negative emotion. When you feel bad, you block access to your brain's problem-solving resources. And the only way you can solve problems and minimize your problems, and the only way you can ever feel truly in control of your life, and that you really are living your life purpose, is to be able to use the full resources of your brain, which are only available to you when you're in your natural creative state. In other words, when you're feeling good, not feeling bad. And you do this by using your brain the right way. Now, I'm sure you have many questions about all of this, about how your brain works, about how we create problems and how you solve them, etc. And that's why I've created neurostate rebalancing. Neurostate rebalancing is a process that keeps your brain in your natural state, your natural creative state, so that you have access to all of your brain's resources. It puts you in the flow of your life, living the way you're supposed to, being the best you can be. And I teach this in my NSR coaching program. And if you'd really like to get rid of the problems in your life and start living the way you're meant to, I'd really encourage you to have a look at that. You'll find all the details on my website, liamnaden.com. Now, I know I've presented you with a lot of information in this episode. You might like to listen to it again, because things will become clearer the more you listen. You'll also find a diagram showing you what I've been talking about how your brain works. You'll find that on my website, which is liamnaden.com, under episode number 5, this episode of the podcast section. But for now, just bring your attention to the present moment. And let me ask you, wouldn't it be great to go through your life feeling good all the time? Feeling at your best, your most resourceful, feeling in control of your life, making great decisions, seeing great results in every area of your life, being creative, resourceful, and having a true understanding and awareness of who you really are and what your life purpose is, and feeling in the flow of life rather than feeling like you're fighting against life all the time. Well, you can, and you don't need to take anything to do it. You only need to start using your brain the right way, because feeling vibrantly alive on every level of your being, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that's the way you're designed to be. That's your natural creative state, because that's what creates the best version of you, and being you is who you have been created to be. And if something unexpected comes along that really could harm you in that moment, something that's a real and immediate threat to your physical body and to your survival, then your brain can temporarily put you in a different state, your reactive survival state, and do what is necessary to remove that threat as quickly and easily as possible, so that you then go back to living your purpose, being in your natural creative state, and feeling good. This is the way you're designed to live. It's the way your brain has been designed to operate. Nothing and no one in this universe wants you to have fear, stress and problems in your life. All fear, stress and problems do is damage you and take you away from living your purpose. And all you need to do to live this way is to just let your brain do its job the right way. My mission in sharing this information with you is to help you to do that, and to help you realize who you really are, which is something far more powerful and more magnificent than you realize. Your brain is the most astounding machine that exists. It has a power that is virtually limitless, and all of that power exists for only one purpose: to express the greatness of who you really are. That's all for this episode of Using Your Brain for Success. I look forward to sharing with you in future episodes so much more about how you can truly create an extraordinary life using the incredible power of your brain. And please share this show with anyone who you think might be interested. And in the meantime, if you'd like to learn more about how to create real success in your life, visit my website, liamnaden.com. You can also learn about neurostate rebalancing. This is a process which I've developed which automatically gets your brain working the right way to solve problems and create a life you love. I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Bye for now.